Well, it appears that the conversation about corruption is virtually becoming a cliche, as almost every year we get to move into this particular conversation and get to understand exactly what can be done about the situation. Well, as you may be aware, Ghana loses $3 billion annually as far as corruption is concerned. And of course, in 2020, when we last checked, the Corruption Perception Index, in terms of the percentage points scored by the Republic of Ghana, stood at 43. So exactly how do we get out of this maze or this quagmire as far as corruption is concerned? That's our focus as we have a conversation with an anti-corruption crusader, Vitus Azim. He's our guest here on XYZ Tonight. Welcome. Well, as always, the show is live and interactive. We're live on Wazer TV. We're also live on TVXYZ on Facebook. Get interactive with us as you send us your message on WhatsApp and also on Facebook. And let us understand, maybe you might have involved yourself in corruption. And is corruption deeply rooted in the society that there's nothing we can do? Are we really losing a fight against corruption? I am Prince Minka. Thank you very much for joining us. And Vitus Azim has been at the forefront in the fight against corruption. He's an anti-corruption crusader, the former executive director of Ghana Integrity Initiative, a local chapter of Transparency International. He's our guest here on XYZ Tonight. Welcome, sir, and good to have you.
Thank you.
And I hope you're doing fine.
Well, I'm managing.
It's been a while.
Yes.
Where have you been?
Well, I've been around. I've been in my home in Kasua, sometimes doing a few small consultancies to keep myself busy and make some small money.
It looks like you left some sort of a big shoe there at Ghana Integrity Initiative. Little is heard of you these days. When I say you, I'm referring to your former office, GII.
Well, I wouldn't say that I left some big shoes. Everybody has his time to come and go, and I did my part. And I wouldn't want to say that I left shoes, but I think that whatever space I left, it has been filled. And so we expect that they do at least what I have done. But when you give birth to a child, you expect the child to at least get to your level.
Right,
or
even do more
or
than
even
that.
do more. And I think they are doing their best.
Very well. In terms of doing our best, is Ghana's best score 43 percentage point? Last time we checked the Corruption Perception Index in 2020. That's how it was looking. What does that say about this fight against corruption?
Well, it is about impression about Ghana's fight against corruption, because ever since Ghana became part of this CPI in I think 1999, we have never scored even up to 50. Well, at the beginning it was 0 to 10, and the highest we went was 3.9 out of 10, which is not 50% of any exam you've written. Then later on they changed it to 0 to 100. And the highest we've gone was just 48 out of 100, which was still less than the 50% that we want to talk about. And so, and we haven't stayed there. We have come down as low as to, I think, 40 and 41 again, and just this 2020 we went back to 43.
43.
Which is just a small improvement. As for the ranking, you always look at the number of countries that are involved.
Yes.
If you have only 50 countries and somebody ranks 50, it means nothing. But if you have 100 countries and somebody ranks 50, then I can say that the country has done very well. So we ranked 75 out of 180 80 countries.
Yes.
And so you can see that we haven't even got to 100 out of the 180.
What could be accounting for this? I mean, look, it looks like it's turning out to be an issue, a conversation you and I have had both on radio and TV over and over and over and over. What is making it difficult for Ghana to move out of, or to get to the exit point of this maze as far as corruption is concerned?
See, to succeed in the fight against corruption, you must make it highly unattractive. How do you make it unattractive? You make it unattractive by promptly investigating credible allegations of corruption and sanctioning people that are found to have engaged in corruption. You also need to put in, first you need to put in place the laws that you can use in the fight against corruption. For me, I think we've got enough laws.
Yes.
We've set up enough institutions to deal with corruption.
Right.
But when it comes to promptly investigating issues of corruption and then taking action, including prosecution of people that have been found to have engaged in corruption, they are found wanting.
Why?
Well, there are a number of issues. One is, the political will. Political will is not there.
Political will in terms of what the president says, political will in terms of the posturing of the government of the day, or what?
It's the two. One, the posturing of the government of the day, and what the president says or does. You see, if you get an allegation and you ask me to investigate, I investigate and I bring the report to you, I expect you to act on the report.
Okay.
If you don't act on the report, it has two implications. One, for me, next time I may not take the investigation seriously, especially if those I'm investigating also tempt me with offering me some enticements to do a shoddy job. But the second thing is that those you've investigated and you've found them to have done something wrong and they have not been acted upon will now do more with impunity.
Okay.
After all, what can you do? What will they do?
Take for instance,
you see that you just wasted your time. What has the president said about it?
Right.
What has the government done to me? So you are now emboldened to do more.
Very well. Take, for instance, the current administration.
But let me just add that
yes, please.
Our politics, too, is one of the reasons for corruption.
Our politics?
Our politics.
How so?
Our democracy. Every 4 years, you have to go and campaign. First, at the primaries, whether presidential or parliamentary. The primary is a very expensive thing. A parliamentary primary, you can spend more than 200,000 to even just win the primaries. And then when you have won, the amount that you spend to now get through the general elections. So that makes you, when you win, first 2 years you try to come and make some money and pay debts. After 2 years, you now start thinking about how do I accumulate money for the next election. Because politics is such that once you taste it, you don't want to step aside. And that's why we have the Mugabes. It's very interesting. You sit on the chair and breathe the air of importance. And you say, wow, I cannot give this position up.
But
so
that's
you do everything.
That's a position you occupy to serve the people. And we hear that when they're on the campaign platform, that we are here to serve the good people of Ghana. Clearly, I mean, you can testify with regards to His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. That's been the narrative. I mean, before, after the elections, when he was sworn into office, he made it quite clear, even in terms of some of the appointments he made it quite clear that corruption was a major issue he was going to tackle head on.
Yes,
so it's not just rhetoric, is it?
Yeah, it's rhetoric. Those pronouncements, it's like you see a young man sees a nice, beautiful girl. He hasn't got money, but the money he has takes her to Hotel Kempinski to make her happy, so that she would give in. Politics is like that. You tell the electorate what they want to hear.
Really?
Yes. You tell the electorate what they want to hear, knowing that even if you win, there's not much they can do. They cannot hold you onto that.
But you don't just tell them what they want to hear without you being convinced or without a conviction backing what they want to hear. I mean, for instance, when words like, I am passionate are used.
For me, from the experience that I've had from various governments, not just one government, it is a way of selling yourself. You're just saying that, yeah, I'm this because I want your votes. You know, even the projects, they make promises. When I come, I'm going to give you this project. I'm going to do that. When they come, what happens? They even cut sorts for projects in the election year. Getting the election, you cut sorts. And when you win, those projects remain silent. You know you don't have the money to start the project, but you go because you want the votes. And Ghanaians are gullible. We are all human beings who are gullible. We give the vote. Especially if you now, even at the time of the election, you add some money to me. So that is the main problem. The political will is not there. But also the people you appoint to certain positions, their integrity is sometimes also questionable. You've been given a job to do, you're supposed to do it honestly. But sometimes you yield to the enticements not to do your work appropriately.
You yield to the enticement
Yes.
not to do.
Yes.
So how does the enticement arise? What form do they take?
Well, I don't know how.
If you can give us examples, I mean, why not? In any of the administrations, you've been around for a while, and you've been at this fight against corruption for a while. So,
you see,
what form does this enticement
let me give you an example. You are a contractor.
Mm-hmm.
For 4 years, you have not got a contract because you are perceived to belong to the opposition party. Then that party wins and comes in. And the minister calls you, oh, my brother, I know you have not had any job for the past 4 years. I'm going to give you this project. It costs this, but you have to give me my 10%. And sometimes they ask for the 10% upfront. You have to give me the 10%, you know. These things are hard, you know. I just came back from the elections, very expensive elections. I need to I need some money to support myself and my family. If it were you, you haven't had a job for 4 years, what will you do? As a human being, you would be tempted to say, okay, take it, so that you get something to offer yourself. If I have funded your campaigns and you win and I come and say, look, I want this contract, or I want my son put into a certain position, it will be difficult for you to say no if you are in a position to give me to do that for me, that favor. Those are the enticements that come in. Sometimes you may just be sitting and they call you, oh, we have this job and we want to give it to you, but this is the thing, you know, you have to go and see the minister. Or even now that they're appointing ministers and deputy ministers and DCs and boards or directors, you cannot rule out such attempts to influence the process. And so those are the issues that come in.
And so are those the issues that have a trickle-down effect to the general society, for which it has become normal? For instance, in the words of Lydia Force and the actress, that wherever you go, almost everybody is asking for bribe before you can make your way through, say, a government institution or any other institution to be able to meet a demand that you'd want, or something that you
yes,
want.
That is how it trickles down. Because if the top person will not sanction the next person for doing wrong, then that next person will not also be able to sanction.
So corruption has been normalized.
Yes, I would say institutionalized.
Institutionalized.
I think so in some areas.
And what are the implications really for Ghana?
Well, the implications are that we are going to continue to suffer as a country. We are going to continue to borrow monies, because monies which we may not even use properly, because we are not able to generate enough revenues to meet the demands of our society. You start a project here because the people were supporting you in the elections. You do it halfway and you forget about it and go to another place and start a project. If you had finished that project, you might have earned some income there. You would have satisfied certain people. But you stop halfway and you go to another place, especially if there's a change of government. That project deteriorates. And when you wake up one day and decide you want to go back to that project, the cost has doubled or tripled. Certain things might have even just been destroyed and you have to go back to the very beginning. I'll give an example. I was living at Teshi. There was this road there that they got a contractor, he did everything, graveled the place, and stopped. The rainy season came and washed all the thing away.
What the contractor
had done away.
Yeah.
So if you are going to come back to the road, what are you going to do? He came back later and started the road. You are going to spend not only to gravel the road to where it was before, but now to continue. And then you bring in inflation. And if there's a change of government, they would have assumed that you had paid the other person to get the contract, so they too will demand their share. And so at the end of the day, the amount of money you spend on that road could have been 3-4 times what you would have spent at the very beginning. So where are we going to?
So how would a country like Ghana institutionalize corruption when figures are staring at in a phase that, look, annually the country loses $3 billion US? I mean, we've got the figures, it's quite glaring, quite obvious in our faces, yet we are unable to see where the root causes are.
We see,
But we pretend not to
But
see.
it's greed.
Greed.
And when I talk about institutionalization, I used to work at Internal Revenue Service, now Ghana Revenue Authority. Institutions are supposed to withhold taxes from payments that they make to contractors. So we went to one district assembly, and we looked at their records. They had not deducted the 5%. That time it was 5% for government. We asked the accountant. The accountant said, oh, the DC says I shouldn't deduct because the party, they've already taken 5% for the party, 5% for retention. So if they take the 5% again for the tax, then what will the contractor have? Of course, he didn't also add what the people who awarded the contract might have taken. So at the end of the day, your contractor, you have paid 20 to 30% of your money already to set these things. How much profit will we make? But the institutionalized is the fact that they are able to tell that the DC says I shouldn't deduct. This is contravening the Income Tax Act.
So again, the laws are there.
The laws are there, but what could we do? I've ever been ordered by a district secretary to walk out of his office.
Why?
Because I went there to demand that they should pay those monies. When we went up, I reported to the regional minister, called the district chief executive, and only advised him to go and do the right thing. No sanctions. So next time he'll do the same thing.
So what would hold a regional minister back from applying sanction when it's obvious there's been a wrongdoing?
Well, you see, I wouldn't know. There can be a lot of issues. One is personal relationships. Two is partisan interest. Maybe after he has advised that later on they will have a chat and say, forget that person. Because the regional minister does not even think that it's necessary for him to have deducted those monies. So it has to do with attitudes. Because any public servant should be very serious about taxes. Because you are paid from those taxes. And so if people below you are not doing the right thing, you should be willing to able to sanction the people that are saying that collect those taxes.
Okay. Back to the issue of evidence and things that are staring us in our faces. Year in, year out, or year after year, the Auditor General's report is fraught with monies getting missing, people taking undue advantage of the system, monies entering pockets that are not supposed to have been host to that particular money. Year after year, we get such reports, and we're unable to get to the bottom of the issue. Usually, it's left hanging. Why?
Again, I wouldn't say we're unable to. We don't want to get to the bottom of these issues. Again, it's partisan. We're supposed to have audit implementation committees. These are headed by the political heads of the institutions. If the Minister of Finance is heading, and then his financial controllers do the wrong thing, what will you expect him to do? Especially when there's a change of government and you remove certain people and bring people that you think you can work with. They'll say there are people that you can work with, but they are probably relatives, they are party supporters and all that. You'll not be bold enough to take any serious actions against them. And that's why the Auditor General's work is virtually useless. You spend time going around and doing the audits and coming back and giving reports to Parliament. Parliament sits in public and the debates, make the recommendations to the appropriate bodies, and you see nothing.
That's to say the Public Accounts Committee.
Yes.
Yes, when they sit on the...
Yes, they make recommendations.
Yes.
Of course, they will now be approved by Parliament. They go back to it's the executive's responsibility to implement it.
Yes.
Nothing happens.
And almost every year we do the same thing.
And nothing happens. So why do you have to set up an audit service if you don't want to work on what they do?
Wow.
But they're supposed to protect the public purse. And this president has promised that he will protect the public purse.
Yes,
so the audit service is supposed to help you protect the public purse. Because you cannot be everywhere. So if you fail to do that, is it necessary to establish an audit service and pay workers to do the audits? So the problem is with the executive. And again, it has to do with personal relationships. It has to do with corruption itself. Because if you are very close to the boss of this place.
So should we dissolve the audit service?
No, I'm not saying we should
dissolve it. We need to say, look, we no longer...
No.
But it's of no value per what you just said.
Well, when I say that,
yes,
I'm saying it with the hope that those that are rendering it of no value will wake up and realize that, yes, we're doing something wrong. We're harming this country by not making the audit service work effectively. And then they'll make it work effectively. Not to say that it should be abolished.
So you have that confidence that.
Well, I have the hope.
But you've been having this hope for quite some time now.
Yeah, but
and this issue you raised with regards to the audit service, it's not the first time.
Yes,
and we are going at it. It's like we're marking time.
Yes,
Nothing seems to be done.
I've always said that we cannot raise our hands into the air and give up. Otherwise, we shouldn't be sitting down talking, having this conversation.
Yes.
We always have hope that something would happen.
What would it take? What must happen for there to be a turnaround? I mean, since we are talking about institutions, here's a president who promises that, look, I'm going to fight corruption. I'll protect the public's purse. And he comes into government with a new, if you will, a new police that will help in the fight against corruption. I'm talking about the special prosecutor.
Yeah.
There are also other institutions that are adjoined or that are aiding, that are aiding in this whole fight. The audit service, the auditor general, for instance, and all that. With regards to what has happened to the special prosecutor, first special prosecutor, Martin Amidu, and then Yao Domelevo, the auditor general, what does it say about the political will, what we can do to help the institution to aid in the fight against corruption?
Well, for the special prosecutor, we can say that he resigned. Of course, there were things that made him to resign. But for the auditor general, he was pushed out, deliberately pushed out, in spite of the good work that he was doing, in spite of the praises that were all heaping on him for doing what he was doing. And so both incidents definitely are not helping the fight against corruption. They are not helping us to recover money that are wrongly stolen. Of course, you know, when the past auditor general tried to recover some monies from certain people.
Yes.
And some even ended up in court.
Yes.
Surcharges and all that. If he had continued to be there for some time, more monies would have been covered. People would have gotten scared that, oh, if I do this, I'm going to run into problems. But then he was asked to go. And he had to go. So that is the other side of it. It's not just complain about inadequate resources, human and material resources to do their work. It's not just that, but the independence for them to do their work. We know several public officers that have reached age 60 years and they have signed new contracts to stay for 2, 4, and 5 years. A president that promised to fight corruption and to protect the public would have said, Mr. Domelevo, you are doing very well. We are going to give you another contract, even though you are 60, we're going to give a contract for 2 years and subject to extension for another 2 years and finally 1 year. The Constitution provides for 65 years. Unfortunately, it was the opposite. You should have gone on retirement a year ago, so please go.
And that's what you call deliberate hounding out of Domelevo.
Yes, that's how I see it. Especially when there were pending cases. You could have at least said, stay for 6 months and finish these cases before you go.
What's so special about Domelevo?
He was doing what the politician didn't want. He was doing his work with honesty.
How are you able to tell?
Well, I've told you he was able to recover monies. Before that, which Auditor General did it become public that he or she has recovered monies from people that have wrongly taken those monies?
And Domelevo was always
How many Auditor Generals went to court?
Domelevo was always coming to the media. Some say, look, he was showing off.
Well, you see, there are various ways of fighting corruption. If I know that you are not committed to the fight against corruption, and that if I come privately to tell you, you will not support me, or you even try to suppress me,
you go public.
I go public. So that the public will support me. And if the public supports me and puts pressure on you, you may yield and do the right thing. And in any case, audit report, once you put it before Parliament, it becomes a public document. So I don't know why people should have been worried that he was coming to the media. If you are doing the right thing, what's wrong with putting in the public domain? We talk about transparency and accountability. Put the things in the public domain. How many governments have ever sacked people and come to the country and say, we've sacked this person because he was involved in this act of corruption? Why? You just remove somebody quietly, and then, or even you just give him or her a different position, maybe outside the country. When we all know the fellow has done something wrong. How do you expect to say that the fellow is committed to the fight against corruption?
On the back of Dobelevo's incident,
Yeah.
what do you want to see the executive arm of government, in this case, i.e., the president, do about it? I mean, of what use would the Domelevo story be for the president in dealing with corruption?
You see, if you just want to look at it, the president, Mr. Domelevo has gone. After now, no substantive auditor general has been appointed. The special prosecutor has gone. After now, no substantive special prosecutor has been appointed. I think Eyoko too has an acting, I'm not sure. Some very important institutions have acting people. And I think the labor law talks about 6 months acting positions.
Yes.
And you see, when you are acting, you do not have the courage to do what you want to do. Because once you're acting, the president can just wake up and say, go. Or just keep quiet and appoint somebody. They have done that to some people. They don't tell you go, they just appoint somebody. And
you're acting.
You yourself will see yourself redundant. You see, so you're not able to do what you want to do. Secondly, because you want to remain in that position, you may even go beyond what you shouldn't have done to do things to please the appointed authority. So you cannot do your work effectively because you're in an acting position.
Is that to say...
And politicians deliberately keep you in that acting position so that they can have control over you.
Is that to say that based on what happened to Domelevo, the audit service would never be the same? Or the position of the auditor general, that position would never be the same?
I wouldn't use the word never. But for now, I don't think it's the same. Because, you see, when Domelevo was asked to go proceed on leave, and somebody was appointed to act, the following day, Mr. Osafo was cleared of the case that Domelevo was handling. That already shows that there's a difference between Mr. Domelevo and the other person who took over. And both were heading the institution. So what do you expect? Of course, Mr. Domelevo also had people who supported him in what he was doing. And this other person probably also has people that are supporting him. So if there's that gap, now here there were transfers after Domelevo left. So definitely, how do you expect things to go the way that they were going with Mr. Domelevo? Those are the issues that, when I was talking about the cause of corruption, the people that you put in certain positions can also be a factor frustrating the fight against corruption.
So you need someone that's stronger.
You need someone that is stronger.
But Martin Amidu was, proved and showcased some strength.
Yes, but he still had to go. I wouldn't. How many successful cases were prosecuted?
It remains a question.
It remains a question.
Does that worry you?
We don't know. Yeah, it should. It should. It should worry us. And that's where we don't seem to be progressing. Instead of patting the people at the back, then these things happen.
Okay.
And his going was, according to what he said, had to do with the Ajapa.
In fact, we'll come to it.
Action where he said,
yes,
that there was a high risk of corruption.
Yes, we'll come to the issue of Japan and many other scandals, corruption-related scandals that have hit the country. And that question you asked, why are we unable to get to the bottom of the matter? We'll come to those issues, and perhaps maybe there are some guiding principles there that can guide us going forward. You're still watching XYZ Tonight here on TV XYZ with me, Prince Minka. Our guest is an anti-corruption crusader, Mr. Vitus Azim. Now remember, the show is always sponsored by Black Secret Makeup. And Black Secret Makeup is a wholly owned Ghanaian brand that produces a range of products in the cosmetic industry. Now, our facial wipes are one of the best facial wipes in the country. Talk about facial wipes. If you're looking for the best, you need to be counting on Black Secret Makeup. And having won the Makeup Product of the Year 2018, Black Secret Makeup's facial wipes have been improved with anti-aging ingredients that prevent the face from wrinkling. And it's a deep dirt cleanser, removes excess oil and much more, does not contain alcohol. So if you're looking for the best bet in terms of makeup kits and facial wipes, you should be thinking of Black Secret Makeup. And it also clears black spots on the face and does not cause irritation to the skin. And the facial wipes are very, very tested. And also, remember, we are also supported by X Natural Mineral Water. Mr. Vitus Azim just had his X Natural Mineral Water. He's feeling refreshed already. Simply natural. We're right back after this. Stay with us.
I love makeup. Applying it gives me so much joy. But when it's time to take it off, nothing does the job quite like the Black Secret makeup wipes. When I go somewhere and I feel really sweaty, I take my Black Secret wipe and I use it on my face. It picks me up and I don't look as tired as I did when I walked in.
Before I work on a client's face, I like to go over it with Black Secret makeup wipes to make sure the face is clean. It doesn't leave the face dry and tight, but it keeps it soft and moisturized.
Wipe say your bodo. Barco pick, and it gets the job done. Or baby, and the smell makes the experience even better.
The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This is XYZ Tonight with me, Prince Minka. And remember, the show is live and interactive on Facebook, on Wazer TV, and also on TV XYZ. Some of your messages already. Isaac Jones sends this one from Taifa. He says, great conversation. I'm enjoying every bit of it. Please ask Mr. Vitus Azim, what about those within the private sector? When we talk about corruption, can they be insulated from this act? And also, a free EA is saying that most of our government's institutions, there's no way you can go through the various processes there without paying bribe. I blame this squarely on the politician. Okay, let me move to this one on Facebook from Fred, watching us. It says, great conversation. Corruption is deeply seated in our country because of the kind of politics that we do. People are usually expecting our politicians to be able to deliver, but since they are unable to do so, people would want to be paid before they get them. They are able to vote for them. I mean, he's obviously talking about vote buying, and pretty soon, most of these political parties are going to move into their primaries. That issue would obviously arise. When it does, is it that we don't learn anything? Why has it become so established a norm that anytime we're going into a primary of a political party, these issues arise? Why?
Well, I think that's the other side of it. The citizens' contribution to the corrupt state that we find ourselves. You see, we may start as teachers. Then you decide to stand for elections, go to parliament. Within 3 months, you come home with a V8. Your children move from wherever you are to Accra. They are living in a posh bungalow and all that. So next time you come back wanting my votes, I'll tell them, look, I've seen how you have progressed. You also need to let me benefit from what you have benefited so that I can continue to support you.
Wow.
So it becomes like people are able to give, there are instances where even people give cars to their campaign managers on the excuse that they are going to help them do the campaigns. As for motorcycles and bicycles, TV sets, cloths, they're a normal thing.
But did it surprise
And
you?
that's the institutionalization that we're talking about.
Of corruption. But I want to just bring in this one. Did it surprise you when during the national elections there were reports of money sharing, sharing of clothes? In fact, sometimes you have food items being given to people with the logo of the political party, or sometimes a picture of the presidential candidate, for that matter. I'm sure you saw some of these pictures on social media and that conversation.
It shows.
Did it come as a surprise to you?
Not at all. It shows how deeply ingrained corruption is in our society. People do it with alacrity.
At the national level,
they don't feel
national elections.
Yes, they don't feel there's something wrong with what they're doing. One, that's impunity, because if I do it, what can you do? And the citizens do not ask, where did you get all this money to buy these things for us? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, you didn't find it necessary to come and give us these things. Why are you not giving us these things? People don't ask. They jump at it and they're clapping hands and they're happy. But some go to all the parties' rallies and take the T-shirts and take the monies.
TV sets.
My prayer
fridges
is just that after you've taken these things, still vote according to your conscience. Because after all, you don't know where they got the money from to give to you. Maybe it's your tax money that they're giving it back to you. So take it, but vote according to your conscience. Not because they've given you money. But it all shows that we as a country, we are just degrading ourselves.
Okay. And what about our inability to have closure to the many corruption-related scandals, the PDS, the Metro Mass Transit bus saga, you can also talk about the Jeddah scandal, you can talk about the bus scandal. There are so many of them. A Mary Innovation scandal, the Kroll and Associates scandal, so many of them. We're unable to have closure. What does that mean? Implications.
Because the people implicated, I wouldn't say involved because we have not tried them and found closure, but the people implicated, the names that have been mentioned, are the people that can influence the situation. Even the Anas 12 case, the president was mentioned, the vice president was mentioned.
And the names popped up.
And so when you are at the top and your name is mentioned, what action can you take against yourself? And if you haven't taken any action against yourself, if you haven't exonerated yourself, how can you take action against the lower people?
How is it possible that names are mentioned, but we have absolute silence on the matter?
Because those that are supposed to pursue those names are themselves implicated.
Wow.
They themselves are implicated. The other side of it is, if I am an accountant at the place and at the end of the year, I get messages from Accra, let's say I'm in the village, I mean a region. Oh, it's getting to Christmas, can you bring me a goat? Can you bring me a sheep? What are you bringing me for Christmas? You definitely do not expect me to take my salary and buy those things and come and give. You say that you don't send money to me. Where do you think I will take the money from? So if later you find out the audit report says that I've stolen money, will you be bold enough to insist that some action should be taken against me? Because I've always been given this example. You are a watchman. Christmas, you take a goat and go and give to your boss for Christmas. Meanwhile, you're not able to kill a guinea for your family Christmas. And your boss accepts it with happiness. Oh, you have done well, you're a good man. Then he comes, I want to go and leave. I want to go and see my... You grant the leave. After that, he wants to do this. You keep granting the leave. One day, they'll come and rob your house. Can you say anything? So it is because those who are supposed to fight the corruption, those who are supposed to take action on corruption themselves are either involved, or their relatives or their party people are involved or implicated.
Is it an issue of legislations? I mean, you mentioned that a while ago that we've got all the beautiful laws, but
our constitution is quite well when it comes to laws that are supposed to fight corruption. In addition to the constitution, we have several laws, and the institutions have been set up. It's not a matter of law. Enforce those laws. That's where we found wanting. We have the laws, we have the institutions, but we don't want to enforce those laws for the same reason that we said. Because I cannot do it to myself or to my relative or to my party executive. or somebody who has given me money for my campaigns, or who visits me in the evening and comes with a bottle of schnapps or some, not schnapps, but expensive whiskeys. Those are the things. So until we get people on the top who will not be interested in these small, these bribes, these enticements, corruption will continue.
And for that to happen, someone would have to be persecuted.
Yes, someone
would have to go to jail.
Someone has to be prosecuted.
People have gone to jail over corruption.
Go to jail.
The gender matter.
Go to jail, or even get money recovered from you. Access.
But I've just given you an example. In the case of Jeddah, people went to jail. Heads were made to roll.
You see,
so why didn't that serve as a deterrent?
When you're talking about people going to jail, and you just talk about one case, rolling 2 people to jail, is that enough to discourage people? When Rawlings came,
are you saying one case cannot serve as a deterrent? One particular case, one high-profile case.
When Rawlings came first time and they were tackling armed robbers.
Yes.
The armed robbers said, oh, but when you enter a car and you're going from Bolga to Accra, you know that the car can get involved in an accident and you die. But you still enter the car and go to Accra. So one case is not enough to just discourage people.
A high-profile case.
Yes.
One that was used as a political football.
So that was the thing. So, if you were on the side, it means that there is a suspicion that even those people were just scapegoats, or at least they were not the only people that were involved in this case, or that should have been prosecuted. There could have been other people. So if you're in the good books, if you are lucky, if you have your godfather somewhere, you can get involved, but nothing may happen to you.
Okay, let's look at what pressure groups can do, the civil society groupings, what they can do. I mean, I've seen in a number of instances in this country where there's been that uniform conversation from the side of pressure groups where it's had a resultant effect where matters are changed in the interest of the country. I mean, for instance, take the voters register matter, for instance. At a point, you realize that there was that uniformity. Almost did they get the EC to do a U-turn, but they had their way anyway. Can pressure from the pressure group, the civil society, in any way help in dealing with corruption?
Yes. Pressure from civil groups or citizens can help in the fight against corruption. But it depends on the type of pressure that you put on the authorities. When most of the time we just issue press statements, sit on the radio or television for a week and talk, and then the matter dies. You know, when the issue about the wife of the communication director at the presidency came out, there was a talk for maybe just about less than a week, and the matter has ended. It has died. Nobody has pursued the thing at all. The journalists have not gone back to see what the president has said or done about it. So the pressure is not just enough to issue press statements or for media houses to report. We need to go beyond that. Where we reach, we need to go beyond that by coming out to the streets to demonstrate.
To demonstrate.
And demand that action is taken. We need to go to court. Some people...
we've demonstrated on a number of issues. How has that worked for us?
Well, to some extent, it doesn't work that satisfactorily. But you see, with the Right Information Bill, for example, the coalition...
I remember you were part of that demonstration.
We demonstrated a number of times to Parliament and all that. Well, it was finally passed, although it took a very long time.
Yes.
So, you see, advocacy is saying that you don't expect to get the answer, the response immediately. You need to continually do these things if you want to get results.
But over the years...
And that's what we're not doing.
But over the years, you've also been at the forefront of advocacy as far as corruption is concerned. With all the number of years you've been at this, together with some other people, has it in any way proven beyond every reasonable doubt that we're getting somewhere in terms of results?
I wouldn't say so. We haven't reached the stage where we say, oh, we're doing very well. You see, when you are fighting something, it is an omnibus thing you are fighting, holistic, then you just get one thing through. You cannot claim that you have been successful. If, for example, we have 10 serious allegations of corruption, and out of the 10, 5 have been successfully prosecuted, then you can say that we're succeeding. Because that 5, 1 may not be enough, but the 5 may be enough to scare people. And through that prosecution, you might have also recovered some monies for the state. But if it's just one case, I don't think that you say successful. And that's why sometimes I say that I shouldn't be referred to as an anti-corruption crusader. Maybe just an anti-corruption campaigner. Because I haven't fought it the way a crusader should fight. I don't have the resources, the powers to fight it the way a crusader should actually fight. I'm just campaigning against corruption.
We had a citizen vigilante who
went to court on
some of these cases.
And that is what, if for example we had throughout this country, every region there were civil society or civil vigilantes taking cases of corruption to court. Even if the judges ruled against them, the government will be embarrassed. And they will probably change their actions. But we don't do that. We're not able to do that.
But when he graduated from being a citizen vigilante to becoming a special prosecutor, I'm sure the thinking at that time, I'm not in his head, but I'm assuming that probably the thinking was that, look, getting there or getting inside the system, I'll be able to fight corruption head on.
Yes.
But it didn't work out for him.
That was actually why he accepted to go in there. That what he was doing as a private citizen, now he's been given state powers to do that more effectively. That's why he accepted it. Unfortunately, things didn't work out that way. You see, when you are in the public service, there are certain things you cannot do when you were that you were doing when you were in private service. Those are some of the issues. The law is there. He said he cannot take things and go public that these are the things I'm investigating, these are the results and all that. Because you're no longer talking for yourself. You're not talking for the nation. And so your hands are tied in a way. And then you're also too much in the public, in the limelight now. People who don't like you are looking for the least faults to rise against you.
Okay. Can we be hopeful in a country where our first special prosecutor describes the president as a mother serpent of corruption? Can we be hopeful that we'll get closer to some of the corruption scandals that has hit this administration? Can we be hopeful?
Well, if what he said has a basis, you cannot be hopeful. If what he said is true, if you believe what he said is true, there's no hope.
Do you believe what he said is true?
I would say that...
Because it was on the back of Ejapa.
Yes, I would say that I don't believe that the president has that commitment to fight corruption.
He doesn't have that commitment.
I wouldn't use the same words that the special prosecutor used.
He doesn't
but
have
I
that
wouldn't say
commitment.
that I don't think he has the commitment to fight corruption.
So that's the end of the road.
For now, I think so.
So then we shouldn't talk about corruption again?
No, we should talk about it. The president is not the only one that should fight corruption. You, the media, the journalists, you are doing a lot of job investigating things and putting them in the public domain.
You do the expose.
Civil society.
If the system is not helping you,
civil society is doing
to get the closure, what do you do?
Yes, you can bring pressure on the president. You can bring pressure on the various institutions. People are called institutions. The other day it was lotteries asking that they should move the managing director.
Yes.
It was civil aviation asking that they should remove now it's ECG. Those things have importance. Because if they do that and the president keeps quiet, as I said, yes, he may keep quiet, but the embarrassment is there. If you appointed people that are not able to perform well, the people that are serving are saying, no, we don't want them. You remove them. You keep quiet and keep them there.
Or reappoint them.
Or reappoint them to other places.
Yes.
It goes on record. And it will dent your own image and the image of your government. So we can, civil society and ordinary citizens can put pressure on the government. If they go and lock up the place and say he shouldn't enter for 1 week, yeah, they may send soldiers and police go and beat the people. But the fact remains that they are able to establish that these are the reasons why we think that this is not the right person in our office. And if you are the appointed authority, you should be worried.
But is it not interesting that you're mounting pressure on the system, but yet on the hindsight, you know that definitely this will not bring you the closure because the political will, which Mr. Vitus Azim you spoke about, is not there.
Yes, it may not bring you the closure immediately, but someday there might be closure. And as for advocacy, as for fighting corruption, it's a continuous process. It's not a one-day matter.
Okay. Since you spoke about leadership being the key
Yeah.
to building men of integrity, should we start having schools that would develop these minds? Should we start introducing subjects in relation to this?
You see, integrity is beyond what you learn in school. It is a way of life, your background and all that. If you're brought up being told that stealing or taking something that doesn't belong to you is a serious crime and you should not get involved, and you grow up believing in that, you will not get involved in serious corruption. No matter what you go to school, they tell you that is not enough for you to stop corruption. So when you are talking about sending people, where you have workshops for some of these top people, they know that this water is not yours, you shouldn't take it, and you take it, it won't change them. So it may help, yes, if you start the children training at the beginning that it's wrong for you to insult an adult or to respect an adult, to take something that is not yours, fine. You may be able to change their behavior. It will help, but it's not the only solution.
Okay.
It's not the panacea.
Okay, very well. This message from Taifa, actually coming from Isaac, he says, good evening to you, Prince. Thank you very much for bringing Vitus Azim to the show. I just want to find out from him, do we have, okay, he said, how do we deal with corruption even at the level of the tertiary institutions? Come to, you mentioned a certain university here, there. It's quite difficult putting that out there. He said, come to some of our schools or some of our tertiary institutions, and you'll be shocked at the level of corruption, even at that level. These are the same people that would eventually become the leaders of this country. Fred is saying that, Prince, have Vitus Azim speak on the issue of asset declaration. On the issue of asset declaration, taken from this texter, what should be the approach? How do we go about it as a nation?
Okay, I'll talk about the asset declaration, but let me just say that our youth, the lives they are living, even the university election, JCR and SRC election, NUCS elections in the universities, it's not something to write home about. Where do they get the monies to buy the posters, splattered all over the place? Some of them have cars with party logos on them.
Party logos?
Yeah, sometimes it happens.
Party or their logo?
Well, maybe their logos.
Yes.
But the parties now have just, would I say, infiltrated the universities.
Is that not a good thing?
It's not a good thing.
Why?
Because, you see, the corruption that we're experiencing in the nation,
yes,
at the national level, they're selling to the university level. And so these people already come out being corrupt.
Oh, how so?
Where did you get the money to campaign and win the election as an SRC president or a JCR president?
Why do you even need money to campaign?
Why do you even need money to campaign?
I'm asking.
But that's because they know that if you win, you are going to benefit. So let us also benefit before you even win. That is the problem. But let's go to the asset declaration.
Yes, on the asset declaration. Tell me about it.
I can talk a lot about that because we fought a lot about this thing when I was at GIA. Asset declaration, or you see, public officers asset disclosure regime. You want to tell people that when I was being appointed a minister, I had 2 bottles of water. At the end of my 4-year term, I still have those 2 bottles of water, or I have 4 bottles of water, but I bought the extra 2 bottles of water from my salary, my genuine income. Maybe I got a house from inheritance. My father passed it on to me. And that I did not engage in any illegal acquisition of wealth. Now, you fill the form with your 2 bottles of water, put it in an envelope, and give it to audit service. They don't even open it to find out whether you actually have 2 bottles of water, or you have only 1, but you have decided to put 2 because you hope that by the time, after your 4 years, you have 2 bottles of water. They're not allowed to open it and look at. In some countries, there is an asset declaration desk where they will open the declarations and even follow up, verify. If you say you have a house in Kumasi, a house in Cape Coast, they will check to make sure that you actually have those houses. and maybe their values. In Ghana, no. You can't do that. That's one problem. Secondly, they're not put in the public domain.
Yes.
So you know the prince, I live by him, his house is just not worth 1 million cedis. How can he say that he has a house worth 2 million cedis? So I don't even know what you have put in there. The ordinary citizen cannot know. So it's not a disclosure regime. 3, the parliamentarians who met them in Ho, the committee, they said no. If you put their spouses and their children there, they won't agree because they are not public servants. They won't approve it. But you know there are children, 1 year, 2-year-old children that have houses.
Of politicians?
Yes.
Really? Of those in public
well,
service?
There's a possibility, those in public service.
Wow.
Because you want to protect.
Possibility or something that exists?
Okay, let's say a possibility, because I don't have evidence.
Okay.
Let's say it's a possibility that you can have a child, 5-year-old child, 10-year-old child having a house. So the rationale for saying that you should cover spouses and children below 18 is to prevent that. Acquiring property in the name of your children when they don't have an income to acquire those properties. Parliamentarians say no, they're not public servants, we won't do that. You may even not talk about children, but about spouses. People have built houses for their spouses.
Yeah, but
some people have even
if it's based on his income, why not?
Yes, so that's the point. Then you should declare them so that we find out whether you actually use your genuine income to build those houses. People have even built for their girlfriends.
Their girlfriends?
Yes, you don't know that. People have bought cars for their girlfriends. People buy cars for their girlfriends. So if you declare them, they will know whether you are doing business or you're in addition to your public service. How did you earn the money to do that? They say no, they won't allow our spouses and our children. If they didn't smell a rat, why would they say they wouldn't approve that thing? So this act that was passed in 1998, Act 550, up to now does not have regulations.
Wow.
Because the parliamentarians did not accept the public disclosure, the verification, and the inclusion of spouses and children. The audit service also said that there's no point having the regulations when they cannot work. The verification, they cannot even, the audit general cannot even open them and look at. So what's the point? So whoever had the regulation, we fought, haven't been able to get the regulations.
So for now, what's the way forward? I mean, here you are fighting with Parliament. Certain key elements of the asset declaration that you wanted approved has not been approved. What then is going to happen?
You see, during the Constitutional Review Commission, we submitted some memorandum on it, and the committee accepted it. The government at the time also accepted it. That's the verification and the public disclosure. But of course, when Nana came in, he said he didn't believe in the whole process, the Constitutional Review process, so he has shelved the Constitutional Review Commission's report.
Where does that leave you? Or where does that leave advocacy?
It leaves us helpless and disappointed. So the way forward, we need to go back and bring those things. They have tried to put it into the Public Officers Code of Conduct bill, which I think has still not been passed. They now try to merge the Asset Declaration Law with the Code of Conduct bill. So they've captured some of these things. But again, it has been in Parliament. Then the Parliament was dissolved, a new Parliament has come in. They're probably going to go back and start again, and that's how Parliament does its work. So when governments don't want a particular bill passed, they just keep dilly-dallying with dilly-dallying. You know, the Right Information Bill 2003?
Yes.
We met various committees at different regimes for breakfast meetings, taking them out to Koforidua for workshops and all that.
You eventually had your demonstration, presented a petition, Chairman Sabunzu, and the leader then received. Here we are. After how many years?
They'll talk, then Parliament's life will expire, and they come back, we start.
So would that same fate visit the matter of asset declaration?
I think so.
It will take another administration.
Because they wouldn't
it be this administration?
Because they wouldn't want to get that thing passed. See? Look, at least the president, if he wanted to give the leadership, should have disclosed his assets. He only says there's nothing in there, he doesn't have anything, but doesn't disclose it. And it's not just because he doesn't want to, his people don't want to disclose, they need to disclose it.
His people?
He said if you're working with people and, the excuse was just funny, you know.
His people do not want him to disclose it.
Because if he disclosed, they will also be compelled to disclose.
And he's the president of the Republic of Ghana, a lawyer for that matter. Does that surprise you?
So he should be able to do it and say that, yes, this is what we should do, and then insist that when I'm giving you your ministerial appointment, you should also, within a week or 2 weeks, you should also go and present your asset declaration to the Auditor General. He's not able to say that.
This is,
and you know,
yes,
during the transition period in 1992, the Constitution says within 6 months upon coming into effect of this Constitution. But in any case, on an assumption of office and upon leaving of office. So after the 6 months period, after the Constitution has come into effect, it's no longer 6 months, so it's upon assumption of office. But Parliament changed that and continued with the assumption of within 6 months into the Act 550, claiming that they need enough time to declare your houses. 6 months.
That's interesting.
Are you the Queen of England? what are your assets?
But tell me, I mean, on this issue of asset declaration, is that a matter of public interest? If it is, how do you rope in the general public to mount that pressure needed in getting the political elite to appreciate the need to have it now?
It is a matter of public interest, because the essence is to say that you have not stolen money while you were in public office. So you declare your assets on assumption of office when you're doing the declare, and make it public so that people will know within the 4 years or 5 years or 10 years that you have been in power, this is the difference between your life and the life before. And that you could have earned all this from your genuine income, or you couldn't. So you might have engaged in corruption. So it's a general matter of public interest.
Okay.
Now, to get the public interested, we have held several workshops around the country for civil society groups, hoping that they will also carry that message to their members. Unfortunately, we don't seem to have that support.
Will they ever come?
It may come. It may come someday.
What would it take? Just as the president was asked about the gay and lesbian rights, what would it take to trigger the action, to get the public support? What would it take?
You see, one problem with fighting corruption in this country is the partisanship. When I put a lot of things on Facebook and people just come and insult me, losing my credibility, I'm doing this and this. Until we get citizens to look at things from the national perspective, and not from the partisan perspective, and not from the tribal perspective, not from whatever, but from the national perspective.
What is national perspective?
Asset declaration, for example, is supposed to prevent people from...
Especially if a political party sits in a country. I mean, a political party is in a country, and the people within a political party, with their interests, have an interest that is similar to the national interest.
That's supposed to be the case.
Partisanship.
That's supposed to be the case, but that's not the situation. So, talking about the national interest is, this law is going to prevent people from stealing state resources.
Very well.
Because it will disclose people that have stolen. So let's support it.
Okay.
But people are looking at it, but if you do that, one politician told me once, he was in civil society and then went to politics. When he was talking about some of this, his people say, look, if we go by what you're saying, what are we going to use to campaign and win elections?
I'm sure this will qualify for your final words as we're wrapping up the program. Thank you very much, Mr. Vitus Azim, for being here with us on XYZ tonight here on TV XYZ. We hope this conversation will continue some other time. That's Vitus Azim, an anti-corruption campaigner, not a crusader for now. I am Prince Minka, and it's been great having you here on XYZ tonight, and lots of your messages have also come through. Thank you very much for staying with us. See you again on Monday. Good night.